Good morning, sports fans. You're listening to 96.9 FM WHYR-LP Baton Rouge Community Radio.
This is Eric Hatfield along with Coach Perry Daniels, and we are here to bring you the latest, the greatest, the best, and the most entertaining in high school, college, and professional sports. You are listening to Louisiana All American Sports. Yeah. Ain't nobody, don't ask me, I'm just so fresh, so clean. Oh yeah, good morning Baton Rouge. We are live here on 96.9 FM WHYR-LP Baton Rouge Community Radio. This is Eric Hatfield.
And I'm yours truly, Terrell Johnson.
And we have another morning chock full of sports here on 96.9 FM WHYR Baton Rouge Community Radio. Well, it is August, and of course with August is the start of the NFL preseason, and there's a whole lot to get excited about because, of course, we are a football town and football crazed, and we love our football here
Indeed.
in Baton Rouge. And, of course, the boys in black and gold got back to the gridiron last night. They traveled to St. Louis, Missouri to take on the St. Louis Rams. It's the first preseason game of the year, so you kind of got to keep your expectations tempered, so to speak. But in general, I thought it was pretty solid, pretty entertaining, and I think the Saints have some potential guys who are trying to make the roster.
Of course, I think so. I can concur with you on that. I was quite impressed with the Rams' defense. As I was telling Eric earlier before the show, before we came on air, I was like, wow, man, I'm really impressed with the Rams' defense. I know it's kind of superficial and early on at this point. However, I'm still quite impressed with their defense.
The Rams have made a lot of draft picks in recent years to shore that defense up. Of course, one player that got probably, I'd say, the plurality of the attention, considering it was a first exhibition game, was Rams defensive end Michael Sam. We all know the story on him, the first openly gay player to be drafted in the NFL. He played last night, had a tackle, and put a lick on the Saints quarterback, so it looks like he's definitely demonstrated some competence, which is good for him, and that story will continue to evolve, I suppose. So let's go ahead and start talking about exactly what happened last night. I mean, there were some things that looked good, and there were some things that were a little on the slovenly side last night. Now, one thing that I really felt good about was the play of Ryan Griffin, a.k.a. RG4. He was an undrafted rookie, kind of an experiment, and I'll tell you, he looked really, really good. He's a guy who's he's expected to be the third-string quarterback, but I got to say, after last night, I mean, he's looking like he's making a pretty strong case for that top spot. 16 of 23, 179 yards and one touchdown. That was a pass to rookie Brandon Cooks, who also had a very good performance, 5 catches, 55 yards. A couple of folks that stood out yesterday. Mark Ingram looks like he's just picking up where he left off last year. It's like the light went on for him late last season, and he hasn't looked back yet. 8 carries, 83 yards, and a touchdown. He averaged 10.4 yards a carry. Kyrie Robinson had 5 carries, including a touchdown. 5 carries for 23 yards. I got to say that those were some of the more encouraging things I saw in that game last night.
Yes, sir. Ingram, I was very impressed with Ingram as well. Ingram showed a strong desire. He looked like he was hungry. Mm-hmm. He was very aggressive, and I think the Saints fans need to just give Ingram an opportunity, and he'll come through.
I totally agree. And, the other thing with Ingram, it's just, he lost a little bit of weight last year, and you can kind of see that benefiting him. He was a little quicker in his moves and in and out of his cuts last night. The Saints have an embarrassment of riches at running back between Ingram, Kyrie Robinson. Mind you, Pierre Thomas didn't even play last night. He sat. They have got some weapons on that offense. Now, there's the good news and the bad news. The bad news, there was some sloppy play. Total of 10 penalties last night, which you can kind of come to expect in preseason football, but no coach wants to see that. That's just not good. There was a missed extra point by Shane Graham. Of course, that's the new extra point range that they're experimenting with in preseason, where they shift the ball from the 15-yard line, so it's more like a 30-some-odd yard field goal attempt, but not a chip shot. But still, he did miss that. That's not really encouraging. The Saints also got burned on a fake punt last night. They looked like they didn't know what happened at all. And then Luke McCown and Logan Kilgore both threw interceptions. Now, Kilgore's pick was one that ricocheted off of the Saints receiver, off of the Saints wide receiver, number 15. His last name is Jones. Can't think of his first name yet. But nonetheless, there were some areas for improvement. It was what I guess you'd call a typical first preseason game, you know? Area code 225-343-9927. Area code 225-343-9927 if you'd like to get in on the conversation. So, of course, sitting last night, Drew Brees sat, Pierre Thomas sat. I mean, the Saints definitely didn't stick their necks out too far as the personnel, and you shouldn't. You want to see, you're looking at capabilities and people who are trying to make the roster, and that's exactly how Sean Payton played his game. Mm-hmm. So let's see. I'm just looking here at the list of people who did not play. Wide receiver Andy Tanner didn't play, which means he must be hurt because he's a borderline bubble player for a roster spot. Champ Bailey did not play. Jarius Byrd did not play. Ben Grubbs did not play. Jari Evans did not play. Kenny Stills did not play. And Victor Butler, who's coming off of that knee injury, he did not play either, nor did John Jenkins. So, not a lot of injuries. No injuries that I'm aware of, actually. There was cornerback Brian Dixon. He was helped off by the trainers, but he was walking off the field in the fourth quarter. So the number one thing in preseason games, frankly, is coming out injury-free, and the Saints did that. And they won the game. Of course, the game ended as the Rams missed a 59-yard field goal attempt that sailed wide to the left. So the Saints are 1-0 in preseason, and they will head back to the Mercedes-Benz Superdome to take on the Tennessee Titans next week. And I'm anticipating that we'll probably see a few more names that we know in next week's game at the Dome.
And you know what, Eric? I'm very curious to see, since the acquisition of Champ Bailey, how much gas does he actually have left in the tank?
I'm curious too. I mean, you got to figure with having Patrick Robinson, who's expected to be back and healthy in there. I would expect Champ Bailey to play a lot of nickel positions. Yeah. And maybe even moving him in as kind of a faux safety every now and then, considering his age. I mean, look, the man can still play ball. There's no getting around that. We've seen that the last couple of years. But, with your older players, especially in a game like football, it's almost like those old video games with racing where you have that nitrous boost. I mean, you want to kind of save that nitrous boost for when you need it the most. You kind of want to save your Champ Baileys and the like for when you need them the most. And that exactly, and that veteran experience, I think, it's going to be an asset that Rob Ryan is going to know how to use, and I have complete confidence in Coach Ryan to get it done, so to speak. So I think that'll probably tie up our intro on the Saints. If you want to get on the conversation, the number is 225-343-9927, 225-343-9927 to get in on the conversation here on Louisiana All American Sports on 96.9 FM WHYR-LP Baton Rouge Community Radio. So other news in the NFL. There was a lot of preseason action that took place. The season really got underway last week with the Hall of Fame inductions, and the action started on the field. But of course, the action in the NFL also extends to off the field, and we are always listening attentively when the action off the field gets interesting, and leave it to America's team to give America's game a little off the field attention. I don't even know where to start with this one, so I'm just gonna. I kind of
right into it.
Yeah, look. This is reported by TMZ Sports. Couple of things that kind of surfaced here. First, there were racy photographs of Dallas Cowboys owner Jerry Jones in sexually suggestive poses with young women, and they started to land on the internet on Tuesday. Might have been an extortion plot. Photos are all over the internet. Jerry Jones, man gets down. What can I say? I hope I have his kind of energy when I'm 70. First, I hope I live to be 72. That's right. Second, I hope I have his kind of zip when I'm 72 years old. One shows a dark-haired lady in the restroom kneeling with her cheek against his crotch. Deadspin identified the Twitter source as Dallas Cowboys and Mavericks groupie Frank Hoover, who claims he got the pictures from other others and plan to extort Jones with the images. So that's a little unsettling, but, you can kind of think, well, it's not something you want to see, but he's a grown man, and I guess he can party and so on. Well, the story continued to develop. There was also TMZ had cameras rolling when the Cowboys party bus rolled around in Dallas, and Cowboys executive vice president Stephen Jones, who's the son of Jerry Jones, pulled up the team bus to the Sunset Strip for a night of partying. Problem is, one of the men coming off of the bus appeared to be the NFL's head of officiating. That's Dean Blandino. And they had the partying back at the hotel room and pictures of the girls and stuff like that. And they had girls who came out of the club onto the bus and so on. So a lot of league executives complained about the incident. And once again, this is going to put Roger Goodell on the spot with, how's he going to handle it? We know he's brought the hammer down with players.
Right, he has.
And, now he has, Jim Irsay, owner of the Indianapolis Colts, who got caught with, pills and stashes of cash. And now you have Jerry Jones, and Stephen Jones buttering up the head of officials, possibly literally. This was my theory. Now, Perry kind of alerted me to how I knew there was some racy pictures going around. I didn't think much of it, but Coach Perry Daniels, who's unable to join us today, is taking care of some personal business out of town, but he had alerted it to me. I said, I heard about the pictures. Like, no, did you hear what happened? He's like, tell me about some of the detail that I just described. Mm-hmm. And I'm thinking to myself, well, maybe with all the players' safety going on, right? You get the girls on the bus in their bikinis or their lingerie, right? And you say, look, I want you to keep this in mind. As long as the players keep their eyes where your eyes are, which is below the neck and above the knees, bam, that's a safe tackling zone. So he was just trying to really go over, league policy and trying. It was a training seminar, and he just used the girls to make sure he had their attention. Okay, I'm sure there's an innocent explanation for all of this.
Very innocent, Eric. Okay, wow.
And so feel free to chime in and opine on that if you like, Professor.
Well, I think a lot of times when we're dealing with these NBA players, they need outlets and not NBA, NFL, right. I'm sorry. They need outlets. They are grown men. Some of this behavior does seem unsavory, as Eric said, but at the end of the day, these things occur behind the scenes often.
Right.
The common man may not know about it. At any rate, it's interesting, your extortion theory.
Right.
I find that quite disturbing.
Yeah, that's, they're always, here's the thing, is that it's funny because sports is always often a microcosm of life. I've said that over and over again on the show. And you have, I think, you have a balance of people who are very well known. They're very visible in the public no matter what. They couldn't go to the bathroom without being noticed, literally,
right.
Or take a walk down the street. And then you have, they're still human beings and they're people. And then they also have resources. And they have resources to enjoy their lives at a level that most folks don't do on a normal day. And they just got to they need to find a balance between that because, if a grown man wants to party, I think Jerry Jones is married, but that's between he and Mrs. Jones.
Indeed.
That's one thing, but you got to be careful. You got to watch, people will try to take advantage, and you got to, Derek Jeter, New York Yankees shortstop, is in the final year of his career, is a known partier. There have been stories for years and years going around about some of the thing of his adventures and escapades, but he manages to keep it quiet. There are very few pictures. If you go to Derek Jeter's house, no matter who you are, be it a friend of his or a girlfriend, you got to leave your cell phone in a basket at the front of his house. That's how careful he is, and I think that's an example for a lot of powerful men to have that level of diligence to protect your privacy as best as you're able to, and clearly they weren't very careful as their crotch shots going all around the internet and stuff like that.
Yeah, and I think that also the public scrutinizes these professional athletes. I don't know if some of you recall back when Charles Barkley had the campaign, "I'm not a role model." Mm-hmm. So but again, you do have to be cognizant of the fact that young people are admiring you, striving to emulate you. So it's a gift and a curse as well.
It certainly is, and hey, it's going to be interesting to see how that comes out. I think there's definitely a potential point of discipline from the NFL. You always want to protect the shield.
Yeah.
I don't think it's the fact that Jerry Jones and company were out partying. I think it's the fact that you have these very suggestive pictures. That doesn't look good. And I'm trying to put my Roger Goodell hat on and think maybe I can look the other way because ultimately he does work for the owners. But the thing with having the league head of officials there, having Dean Blandino, and having it become public that Blandino was there, that's something that could compromise the integrity of the game, and that goes beyond strippers and hookers and anything else like that. That is something that could affect the Shield on the field, or at least the perception. And you can't have that perception compromised. Have the Cowboys get a favorable play in a critical game. Oh, well, you know what happened there? They took Dean Blandino out and brought those girls around. I mean, and whether it's true or not, it's the perception. And the NFL is all about its relationship with the public. That's why it's profitable and prints money the way it does.
It is.
So there's going to be really interesting to see what Sheriff Goodell, when he pulls out his dueling pistols, what he has to go on with there. So also in NFL news, an unfortunate note, the league has really tried to focus on player safety, particularly a heightened awareness of player safety over the past 5 seasons, with concussions and proper tackling and a lot of rules that have really made being a wide receiver in the NFL less dangerous than playing soccer in some cases, or a quarterback. I mean, it's definitely added offense to the game. Defensive players hate it, but it's definitely in the interest of increasing player safety. But unfortunately, you can't prevent all dangers, especially in a game like football where big, strong men are running around at blurring speeds. And New York Giants running back David Wilson was an unfortunate casualty of that. Last season, Wilson, in the 5th week of the year, suffered a neck injury when playing the Philadelphia Eagles. He was put on IR, injured reserve. He had surgery, spinal fusion surgery in his neck to fuse the bones together that had been jostled or fractured or whatever happened in the neck. Came back. He was cleared to play football. Came back in training camp and then suffered a burner in practice the week before last. Week before last. And was pulled off again, was examined, and the doctors advised him not to play football again, team doctors and otherwise. And so David Wilson, just 2 years into his NFL career after a very standout career at Virginia Tech as a running back, his career is over. It was really, really difficult to watch, and it brings up again when you have these highly public incidents of these really, heart-wrenching injuries. When you see it happen to a young guy like that, it calls into question the league's image on player safety, and also, we've talked about mothers not letting their kids or parents not letting their kids play football, and you even had players, some active players like Bernard Pollard, most prominently saying they wouldn't let their kids play football. And another incident like this is definitely another challenge for the league as far as getting how should I put it? It's incoming inventory, which is young people playing ball.
Right. Of course. And I totally agree with you on that, Eric. I mean, the paramount concern has to be to keep these players safe. I mean, you made the comment about the wide receivers and their safety net that's around them. But I mean, you remember the injury that happened to Darryl Stingley years ago?
Yes, I do. Yeah.
So I mean, we don't want things like that to happen. I mean, it was open season when you had folks like Jack Tatum and whatnot, Ronnie Lott,
right?
And the like of those. So, I mean, we have to try to maintain, as you said, the integrity of the game and keep these people safe.
Yeah, the late Darryl Stingley was a New England Patriots wide receiver, an up-and-coming star, just signed a multi-year $1 million contract, which in the 1970s was not very common. And Stingley in a 1970, it was either 77 or 78, an exhibition game, went over the middle, and Jack Tatum, NFL Pro Football Hall of Famer, known for launching his body like a missile, did so at Stingley, and Stingley was suffered a spinal injury and was paralyzed. Stingley passed away a few years ago, as did Tatum.
Right.
But that's the kind of thing that we never want to see again.
Of course.
The Mike Utley situation. That was a fluke, kind of a fluke. But I mean, still, you don't want to see guys rolling off in a wheelchair. I don't know how much more the league can do. It's an injury. It's a game that's going to have a lot of contact. I just think the league has got to find a way to make sure they keep, Pee Wee football, junior high football, high school football. That's the pipeline that leads to college football, which is where your NFL players come from. Mm-hmm. And one of the reasons the NFL is so good is because right now your best athletes play 2 sports, football and basketball in America right now. The league has got to keep that coming to keep the quality of its game as high as it is. I just don't know how, when you have situations like this, and there'll probably be another gruesome injury or two this season, Commissioner Goodell's got a real challenge on his hands to put the minds of moms at ease.
And that's just the nature of the beast also. I mean, you're going to have injuries, there's physical contact. We were having a conversation last night, and we were just talking about the level of expertise with today's athlete as compared to the athletes of the 80s.
Yeah, that's definitely. I mean, these guys know so much more about taking care of their bodies, so much more about conditioning and working out. And the league preaches like a priest on Sunday about how to tackle properly and techniques, and they'll find you really quick if you do things that put folks in harm's way. Tell them, hold on a second. We're going to take a short recess here. We have some guests arriving in the studio, so we're going to take care of these folks. We'll be back in about 2 minutes here on 96.9 FM, WHYR-LP, Baton Rouge Community Radio. You're listening to Baton Rouge Community Radio, Louisiana All American Sports.
I want you to get a pick.
All right, we are back on Louisiana All American Sports on 96.9 FM, WHYR-LP, Baton Rouge Community Radio. We have a guest in studio who will, I think, add another element of richness to the show, a different talent set. We have Piper in the building. Piper, how you doing this morning?
Oh, I'm doing beautiful, man. Doing wonderful. Glad to be here with you guys. And, let's get it cranked,
All right.
Homeboy Perry, go ahead.
Yeah, and I just want to shout out to the McKinley Senior High School family. We got Joker P in the building. All you old school fans that are Baton Rouge natives perhaps may recall Joker P. He's a longtime friend of mine, and it's a pleasure to have you in the building, man. How have you been?
Oh, I've been wonderful, man. I'm just getting out here now. I'm on a different avenue right now.
Okay.
I want to try to reach out to the kids right now.
Great.
I see the community that's in a dire need of male role models.
Indeed.
And so that's kind of what the lane that I'm trying to go in now.
Great.
But Perry told me a lot about you. Why don't you just, I guess, tell the audience your story. Paint a picture for the folks out there so they can see who you are.
Okay. Well, me and Perry, we go way back since, like T said, we go back to Big Blue Machine, McKinley High, and back in the early '80s. When I was down there and Perry was down there, we had a little group. Perry was the first, almost P Diddy, because we had a group called the Bad Boys. And
P Diddy.
Oh yeah, he was the first P Diddy. I got to give him that credit. So one day, we used to kind of battle at first, during lunch break and everything.
Right.
And so the assistant principal came in because nobody was going to eat lunch or nothing. So and so we used to do our thing, and they actually went and got the State Times and the Morning Advocate, and they came down.
Oh, really?
Yes, and we still have the articles, but they came down, and the name of the article was that lunchtime rapping going, because no one was going to eat. Everybody would just sit there and just watch us,
It must have been pretty good then.
Oh yeah, it was pretty good, and we was kind of battling at first, but then we ended up coming together and forming a little group, and so. He was doing the sports thing, but he also was he was pretty slick. He had a little swag with him back then.
Swaggy P.
Yeah, Swaggy P. Yeah, that's him.
I had no idea that Perry had aspirations to be a behind-the-scenes mogul, such as P Diddy.
Right.
Perry Daniels.
Right, that's a hidden talent. And Perry Daniels, man. So after then, we kind of just we actually used to do a little shows and stuff together and everything, and that's what kind of started it. And then from there on, I had the name Joker P back then, and I do all the talent shows, the May nights, and that type of thing. And it wasn't really an influence for me back then for as Baton Rouge music.
Right.
It was mostly New York and Run DMC, LL, and Fat Boys, that type of thing.
All of our aspirations.
The classics too.
Right, and we lived that. I went to school with the Kango on and the Adidas without the, without the shoestrings in them. And,
Pumas with fat laces and everything like that.
Warm up pants on with the, and everything. And that was my influence. That's when Crush Grooving and everything was out. And so it was a good time, good happy time back then. So it went from there, and then I ended up branching out and started doing my own thing for it, putting out a couple of CDs.
Right.
Me and the other guy, Silky Slim, which he does his Stop the Killing thing now. But we started doing that, and then I got a name for myself and everything. And then I kind of, kept doing that, and basically kind of influenced these new guys now, the Kevin Gates, the Lil Boosies, the C-Lokes, and the Young Bleeds.
C-Loke, I remember him.
Yeah, and me and him did some things together, and it was a good time back then. But of course, I ended up going into some rocky situations and everything too. So that's why I'm trying to come now full circle now and be able to reach out to the younger generation and be able to.
Well, you definitely have a wealth of experience, and that is in experience and wisdom are two things that are invaluable to younger people, from which they can learn and benefit and grow. And I think that's I think it's fantastic that you're reaching out and getting involved. So Perry said you had a jingle recorded for the show. We're going to get that queued up in just a little bit.
Okay.
We're going to talk a little sports. So and feel free to chime in, with your 2 cents anytime you want to. He says you're a big Saints fan. Which I think I know I am. When cut me, I'll bleed black and gold. We had just started talking about the Saints, but we'll go back to that one. Look, did you see the game last night?
Yes, I saw the game.
Go ahead and toss in your 2 cents. What'd you think?
I think that with the Saints, I think that we're definitely a contender this year.
I agree.
And I think that I want to start off by saying I think I of course I'm a Saints fan, but I'm a sports fanatic. I'm a sports fan, so I have to call it like I see it. And I think that I got to give Pete Carroll and Seattle a lot of credit because I think that they now have the blueprint of what's going on.
Right.
They concentrated more on their secondary.
Right.
I think that good linebackers like 49ers or Carolina,
right?
They stopped the run, but it's not many running backs being drafted anymore.
Right,
it's all about receivers and safeties and cornerbacks.
We were just talking about that.
Right, and so we have to start from the back end and come forward. I think that's why with Vaccaro and we drafted got another safety and everything. I think now we can.
Stanley Jean-Baptiste.
Right, because our offense is always going to be
We got Jarius Bird
at the top. Exactly.
Champ Bailey.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that everybody's starting to try to get these safeties and everything like the Patriots and Denver and everybody, and they're trying to get that same blueprint that could be able to stop this high-powered offense that they have this year.
Yeah.
So our offenses, I think, as long as we got our offensive line right, we could protect Breeze. He's going to be good for 4,000 yards every year. So he's going to be able to average 28 to 30 points a game. But we have to stop the other team.
Right.
As long as we can stop the other team, we always have a 89% chance of winning. So I think
you have high expectations for Drew. Huh?
Well, I do. Of course I do. But I think that also the clock is kind of ticking on Drew.
Right.
Because the game is changing in leaps right now. So I think not, having that mobility, you're starting to see the Peyton Mannings and the Tom Brady's getting exposed a little bit. You have to have a little bit of mobility with you now to be a quarterback. So I think that Drew Brees, he need to, the time, the clock is kind of ticking.
Well, Drew Brees thinks he can play another 10 years. You didn't hear about that?
Really?
That's what he said last week. We had kind of joked about that on the show. In fact, we were talking about Josh Gordon's marijuana suspension. I said, well, now moving from marijuana to crack, Drew Brees thinks he can play till he's 45 years old. He said, I'm in the best shape of my life, and I'm not like most of these guys in the mid. That's true. He's never had except for the shoulder injury he had 7-8 years ago. He hasn't had any major injuries, nothing to his knees, no concussions, so he's in great shape. But every great athlete, you might be able to play to you 38, 39, even 40. You look at Brett Favre, he didn't miss a game for 20 years. That last year of his career, once that first little bump went downhill, once that roller coaster went downhill, it went straight.
Right.
And with older athletes, once you have that first injury that throws you off your game, like Kobe Bryant, so to speak,
exactly.
It goes down. Steve Nash, you go down quickly.
You go down quickly. I think with Brett Favre, Bountygate got him,
Yeah.
I'm a big Brett Favre fan. I'm a Green Bay Packer fan, so we're not going to allow any hating to go on in the booth.
I love Brett. First of all, I've always liked Brett Favre, all joking aside. And I also love him because he helped get the Saints to the Super Bowl. Because if he hadn't thrown on 3rd and long, he might have kicked a field goal. We'd have never made it to the Super Bowl. So I'm all in favor of Brett Favre. 3 straight years, ending his season on an interception, and 1 sending the Saints to the Super Bowl. So,
but with Brett Favre, I like to term Brett Favre as the gambler. I mean, Brett Favre is that guy that I want behind the helm with 5 seconds left. I mean, he's going to pull it off. Sometimes some mistakes may occur, which he has made mistakes. But at the end of the day, I mean, Brett Favre. I feel confident that Brett can pull it off.
Brett was a gunslinger. Brett was a gunslinger. I liked him. I really genuinely, all joking aside, I liked him a lot. He really was one of my favorite players of his time. No getting around that. We're going to go ahead and talk about the NCAA ruling. we've on this show we've talked about this a lot. And I always say I got to give credit where it's due. This really is Perry's baby, although it's been in the news a lot. Perry has really kept the audience and kept me abreast of the situation. And finally, the verdict came down last night. U.S. District Judge Claudia Wilkin, in a 99-page decision that followed a contentious 3-week trial in June, ruled in favor of former UCLA basketball star Ed O'Bannon and 19 others who sued the NCAA, claiming it violated antitrust laws by conspiring with the schools and conferences to block the athletes from getting a share of the revenues generated from the use of their images in broadcasts and video games. The injunction she issued allows players at big schools to have money generated by TV contracts put into a trust fund to pay them when they leave. Getting down to the brass tacks, it was a partial victory for the NCAA because I don't think the sum is going to be unreasonable. I think the judgment and that was reached here was reasonable, and I've used that term a lot. Judge Wilkin has often tipped her hand as to where she's leaning. She's tipped her hand the whole time with some of her comments in the trial that she was leaning towards the plaintiffs, which is where she went. It says that the NCAA could set a cap on the money paid to athletes for use of their names and images as long as it allows $5,000 per athlete per year of compensation for players at big football and basketball schools. Individual schools could offer less money, she said, but only if they don't unlawfully conspire among themselves to set those amounts. So, all right, SEC, ACC, Big 10, Big 12, and Pac-12, you play there, 5 G's a year. For 5 G's for every year you play when you get out of school. That's a good way to start life. If I graduate from college, I'm getting ready to start my job as a salesperson. I could use $10,000, $15,000 to buy a car, get an apartment, put a trust fund aside, buy a house. I think that's perfectly reasonable because the NCAA and the member schools are benefiting. So it means that, FBS players and Division I basketball players who are on rosters for 4 years could potentially get around $20,000 when they leave school. Wilkins said she set the $5,000 annual threshold to balance the NCAA's fears about huge payments to players. I think this is long overdue. I really wish Perry could be here because this is his thing. Right. But, he and I agree on some things. We disagree on some things, and that's usually clear. But I think he and I both agree. And if he's listening, I hope I'm speaking for you in this one, that the NCAA had it coming to him. They've been exploiting their leverage over players for a long time. These guys, you hear the same old argument, well, these guys are getting a free education and blah, blah, blah. Ed O'Bannon said it best in a quote yesterday. I'm talking about the big schools. I'm not talking about, Southern University where kids go there to get an education and the lion's share play football for their schools. I'm talking about LSU up the road, USC, where they spot the guys and say, we want you to play football here. I'll just are the one and done basketball players in college. Right. And Ed O'Bannon had a quote here. I've got to find it in these notes because it hit the nail on the head. Basically what he said was, here it is right here. Ed O'Bannon said, quote, I was an athlete masquerading as a student. I was there strictly to play basketball. I did basically the minimum to make sure I kept my eligibility academically so I could continue to play. And that's something that I think all of us who are big sports fans have known for the longest period of time, and I think this ruling takes that into account. So I've run my trap for the last 3 minutes. I'll let you guys go ahead and talk about that a little bit.
Oh, wow, man. As you said, I think that is phenomenal. I think that has been long overdue. These athletes deserve compensation. I mean, you're out here, as you said, the NCAA have been exploiting and making tremendous profit potential from these images, from these various games and whatnot. So it's been long overdue, and I think the trust fund is actually an excellent idea. I mean, you're setting these people up with a position to win futuristically. So, hey, I'm all for it. Kudos.
Yeah.
Kudos. Well, I think that also I'll second what y'all said. I totally agree. With the amount of money is something that it's kind of, when you're talking about all the millions of dollars they make in football, especially with these bowl games and stuff like that, and all the merchandising they get off guys' jerseys, all of the money they get from TV rights, you got the Big 12 network, and then you got the the SEC network, and so I think certain sports is a little different, but then when they had the little NCAA football, I don't think they have it anymore.
Yeah, they discontinued it, and the fact that the filing of this suit was the beginning of the end of it. Yeah,
right.
You're correct.
Right.
That was a good game too.
Yeah, it was a good game, and then they kind of like. You know who the player was.
Right.
I think they took the name off to make it seem just number 9 or whatever.
Right, and they had these computer geeks who would send these who would upload these little packets or patches or whatever, so you can get the players' names up there too. You know, so I mean, because you're allowed to customize the players. You had sometimes a patch you could just upload to the system and boom, it put all the players' names there. So I mean, we're not fooling anybody.
We're not fooling anybody, and these people are steady getting. This is millions of dollars we're talking about, and it's almost like an onion. It has a lot of layers to it. You know what I mean? And I just think that when you're talking about the coaches that get paid so much money too. When you're talking about the Les Miles and the other guys, and they're getting paid so many millions of dollars a year, then they can just leave one school and go to another one and do everything. And an athlete may get hurt during college, and and that messes up his money. So it has a lot of. I think a lot of balancing needs to be done. I think a lot more investigation needs to be in there. Some people say, well, lacrosse is not going to get the same money as
because it's not drawing exactly. It's not drawing the money that big league football and basketball are doing. But I think it's definitely a step in the right direction. I think it's long overdue. You mentioned like some of the guys who could get hurt in college and might not have a chance to play in the pros. Guys like Tyrone Prothro, but what about guys like, let's say your reserve defensive end who's on scholarship, plays 4 years, contributes, but is not going to the NFL. He's putting his body out there too. And I think he's getting a little something in return to start his life with. And I think the $5,000 a year, that for each year that they played, I think it's quite appropriate for guys like that to get in trust after they get out of school. So
I
agree. To get their lives started.
I agree. But when you talk about a Heisman Trophy winner, when you talk about Jameis Winston, you know what I mean? You talk about Johnny Football or something like that.
Right.
I don't know how fair it would be for those guys to get more or get less, but I think
they are getting paid.
Right, but I think that you're right. I think that even when what's his name with Ohio State had to he was autographing his jersey.
Terrell Pryor.
Yeah, Terrell Pryor when he was doing that and everything, and it's like these guys. But I think it's definitely a step in the right direction. I don't know whether we'll go with the unionizing type thing for it's like what was it, Northwestern that started doing that. Where if all the players get in their own union and have a lawyer that represents them in certain cases or whatever to mitigate for them. But it's a step in the right direction. I think
we're going to see a lot more of that
and
too.
Eric, did you say that also that was contingent on staying 4 years?
It was basically the way it was phrased. It was $5,000 for basically $5,000 for every year that they played. So if you played all 4 years, you're looking at $20,000. If you play 3 years, you're looking at $15,000 and so on. But like I said, it's a lot more than they're getting now. And I think for your garden variety scholarship college athlete who's not going to go into the pros, I think that's on the top of the scholarship and medical care and tutoring and so on. I think that helps. I think that makes it much more equitable than it was before this judgment was handed down yesterday.
Right.
So we got some Major League Baseball coming up, but first, Piper has a jingle for the show, and I did find our instrumental, so you can rock on with it.
Oh yeah,
so,
let's do it.
I am going. Could you give him your headphones, and I need to just have mine so I can make sure I get them queued up properly.
Oh yeah.
But we're gonna get. We're gonna
feedback.
Yeah, that feedback is. There we go. Alrighty. So we're gonna get Piper going. I know we're throwing you in cold, but from what I understand about your expertise, that should be no big thing. And go for it. Wait, hang on, and there we go.
Louisiana All American. Louisiana All American Sports Show. 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 Louisiana Louisiana. If it's sports you want to talk about, then listen to the hottest show that's coming out the South. It's Eric Hatfield and Coach Perry Daniels, man. They're gonna sit you down and tell you all about the game and make it plain. 96.9 FM, that's the station to hear the best sports talk show in the nation. Without hesitation, you should get with this and get your popcorn ready, boy. You better not miss Louisiana All American Sports Show. Louisiana All American Sports Show. Louisiana All American Sports Show. Louisiana. It's Joker Pick.
Ooh, that was off the hook.
Okay, Don.
Yes, indeed.
Oh yeah.
That was fire.
Oh yeah. Get your popcorn ready. You know.
Ooh, I like that, man. Yeah, we're gonna have to tie that together and hopefully have that ready to roll in produced format as early as next week. The best show in the nation.
That's
that was
right.
fire,
That's
like
right.
Shoot, as my man Mystical would say. All right, I like that, man. That was
like
fire,
that?
man. Yes, indeed.
Oh yeah.
Ooh.
That's for you, Perry. I know you're listening in. I got you, baby.
See Perry just bopping along. All right.
Yeah.
So as we're heading into the last stretch of the summer, we definitely could not conclude today's show without talking about the boys of summer. Major League Baseball is getting hot. The pennant races are starting to become clear, and we're getting closer and closer to that point in the MLB season in which every game counts. You know, you often hear in April and May, well, it's a 162-game season, it's just one game, blah, 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 and that's true. But now it's becoming less of a marathon and more of a sprint, and we're heading into the home stretch of the MLB season, so let's get us all caught up on where the boys of the Diamond are. So, pennant races heating up in both leagues. I don't know where some of these are going. Really, the only division, we've been saying all summer that the only division that's completely settled right now is the American League Central, but the Kansas City Royals have caught life again. They've won 8 out of their last 10, and they're within 2.5 games of the division-leading Detroit Tigers. I just think Detroit's too good, and by acquiring David Price, they're probably going to suppress that peasant revolt. That, at best, is a 2-team race in the AL Central. Cleveland is 7.5 games back. American League East, the Baltimore Orioles are starting to pull away from the pack. You're starting to see the effect of injuries and depth really catch up to the other teams. The Orioles, who are in a critical series this weekend with the St. Louis Cardinals, are 5 games ahead of the New York Yankees, 6 games ahead of the Toronto Blue Jays. And the Tampa Bay Rays, with the trade of David Price, are probably going to fade very quickly. They're 10 games out. The Yankees are really missing ace Masahiro Tanaka with the elbow injury. He could come back sometime in the next couple of weeks. That's very tentative. Toronto, I just don't think they have the pitching staff, in spite of their bats, to pull back close enough to the Yankees or Orioles. In the American League West, the Oakland Athletics are 4 games ahead of the LA Angels. Of course, Perry said he expected the Angels to win that division. The Angels acquired Houston Street from San Diego, the closer. Oakland just went into an arms race, picking up some of the guns they got in trades with Jeff Samardzija, Jason Hamill, and of course now with John Lester. Oakland is 71-44. They're the first team in the majors to reach 70 games. I think Oakland is I think they're going to run away with the West, but we'll see. The Seattle Mariners are 10 games back. They're out of the division race, but they are right there in the thick of the wild card race. In the American League, should the season ended today, the wild card spots would go to the Los Angeles Angels and the Kansas City Royals, but just about a game back of the Royals are the Mariners and the Yankees. Mariners and the Yankees, and the Mariners are getting hot again. They've won 7 of their last 10. In the National League East, I know I sound like a broken record, but we have an airtight battle between the Nationals and the Braves. Washington and Atlanta have been neck and neck all year long, but this really is the time to separate the men from the boys, because the Nationals and Braves are in a crucial series this weekend. The Braves beat the Nationals 7-6 last night. The game wasn't as close as the score indicated. Atlanta was ahead. Washington had a little 3-run rally, but could not catch up. Craig Kimbrell just went beast mode and mowed down the Nationals in the bottom of the ninth. That series is in Atlanta, and it will continue this weekend. Folks, the NL East could be heavily decided by this series and the next one between the Braves and Nats. Miami pretty much out of that race at 6.5 games back. In the National League Central, the WWE, UFC, IBF, whatever kind of phrase you want to use for fighting, Demolition Derby, they've been battling all year. The Milwaukee Brewers have stayed on top of that division. They won really big last night, pulling out the whooping stick on the Dodgers. That series will continue this weekend. Zach Greinke is on the mound today for the Dodgers. Scott Kazmir could not take the hill due to an oblique injury, so he will be replaced by a relief pitcher. I'll get you that name and his stats very shortly. But that is going to be definitely something that will help determine the balance of power in the National League. Pittsburgh, game and a half back of Milwaukee. They have continued battling, and the St. Louis Cardinals, 2 back of Milwaukee. They dropped the game last night to the Orioles. Cincinnati Reds are not completely out of it at 5 games back, but it's going to be a very tight wild card race, and if Cincy doesn't start closing that gap, it's going to close. They're going to be out of it. Their window is going to close very quickly. The National League West is a 2-team race between the Los Angeles Dodgers and San Francisco Giants. The Dodgers got a big hurt put on them last night at the hands of the Brewers, as I just mentioned. The Giants trying to keep pace. The Giants are right there in the thick of the wild card race and division race, which means, they could end up being the odd man out because they played very competitively in a competitive division. But with the, if the National League, if the season ended today, the wild card teams would be in this order: the Pittsburgh Pirates and then the St. Louis Cardinals, with the San Francisco Giants just a half game back of St. Louis. So, very, very tight race for the wild card. It's really an every game counts kind of thing. And then, interestingly enough, speaking of wild card contenders in interleague play today, the San Francisco Giants are taking on the Kansas City Royals in a series this weekend. The Giants lost last night. Good for KC, not so good for the G-men. So a lot of big series. Those 4 big series are really going to have a lot of impact on where we're going. The Cards and Orioles, the Dodgers and Brewers, the Nats and Braves, and the Giants and Royals. Taking the hill today for the Braves is Aaron Harang, 9-6 with a 3.41 ERA. And taking the hill for Washington is Tanner Rourke, 11-7 with a 2.94 ERA. He got smashed in his last outing, so he's looking to make a little bit of a recovery there. Zach Greinke takes the hill for the Dodgers. Greinke's been a baller the whole time. The former Cy Young Award winner does have one but, and that's he's had some trouble against teams that he played for in the past. Greinke is 0-3 with a 4.75 ERA against the teams he has faced since leaving them. That would be Kansas City, Milwaukee, and the LA Angels. He's facing the Brewers today. That young fella stepping in for Scott Kazmir is Mike Flyers. He's a relief pitcher, 0-1, 2.57 ERA. We'll see how he does. It's his first start since June 2nd, so he's not a guy that gets a lot of starts, but we'll see how he does not playing in his relief role. Ubaldo Jimenez is going to take the hill today against the Cardinals. If you're a Cardinals fan, you should be rubbing your hands together and being happy, because Jimenez has been possibly one of the most inconsistent starting pitchers in the last couple of years. Jimenez this year is 3-8 with a 4.51 ERA. You don't know what you're going to get with him. He's like a box of chocolates. He can throw a shutout, or he can get completely torched. But a good opportunity for St. Louis to get back on the horse, so to speak. John Lackey is taking the hill for the St. Louis Cardinals, recently acquired from the Boston Red Sox. He is 3-1 with a 2.33 ERA in his last 4 starts. But he's facing a monster with Nelson Cruz and guys of that ilk in the lineup, and Chris Davis, who seems to do nothing but hit home runs nowadays, but he can still hit home runs. So they're going to have a challenge there. Statistical leaders in the majors, batting for the AL batting crown. Robinson Cano of the Seattle Mariners and Jose Altuve of the Houston Astros are neck and neck. Cano with a 3.35 average, Altuve at 3.33. Home run leaders, who I think is certainly to be American League Rookie of the Year, Jose Abreu has 31 dingers. Nelson Cruz of the Orioles with 29. And Big Papi, David Ortiz of the Boston Red Sox, and Edwin Encarnacion of the Toronto Blue Jays with 26. RBIs, Jose Abreu of the White Sox with 86. Miggy Cabrera, 2-time American League MVP with 84. Big Papi and Mike Trout of the LA Angels tied at 82. Pitchers, wins, Max Scherzer, Rick Porcello, and Scott Kazmir. That's Scherzer and Porcello, both of the Detroit Tigers. It's almost unfair they should have both those guys in the same rotation. With 13 wins, Scott Kazmir of the Oakland Athletics with 13 wins. Felix Hernandez of the Seattle Mariners, King Felix, and Corey Kluber of the Cleveland Indians tied with 12 wins apiece. Earned run average the ERA race, King Felix with a 1.97 ERA, and Chris Sale of the Chicago White Sox with a 2.14 ERA. There's a lot of space after that. In the National League, Troy Tulowitzki, who is contending heavily for National League MVP, has a 340 batting average. He is leading that race. His teammate, former American League MVP Justin Morneau, has climbed right into that chase with a 316 average. Yasiel Puig of the LA Dodgers and Matt Adams of the St. Louis Cardinals tied at 314. Ben Revere of the Phillies with a 313 average. Home runs. Giancarlo Stanton of the Miami Marlins. He's another MVP candidate. 28 dingers. There's a lot of space after that. Anthony Rizzo is second for the Chicago Cubs with 25 home runs. I think I might have said that Scott Kazmir was hurt for the Milwaukee Brewers. That's dead wrong. Scott Kazmir plays for the A's. Matt Garza, who was Kazmir's teammate once upon a time in Tampa Bay, Matt Garza has an oblique strain. That's my bad, folks. That's my mental error. Wins, National League. Perry's Cardinals are looking good in that department. Adam Wainwright with 14 wins, tied with Willie Peralta of the Brewers, also with 14 wins. Third place, Johnny Cueto of the Reds, Madison Bumgarner of the San Francisco Giants, and Hyun-Jin Ryu of the Dodgers, all tied with 13 wins. The ERA race, Clayton Kershaw of the Dodgers running away with that with a 1.82 ERA, and Johnny Cueto right as closest to him for the Cincinnati Reds, 2.04 ERA. Finally, in saves, Greg Holland of the Royals is first, Fernando Rodney second, and David Robertson of the Yankees third with 33, 32, and 31 saves respectively. In the National League, Trevor Rosenthal, top of the National League in saves with 35, K-Rod, Francisco Rodriguez of the Brewers with 34, and Craig Kimbrell of the Braves with 33, and Kenley Jansen of the Dodgers with 32. So that wraps up our MLB report for the week. We still have a few minutes left, and for you basketball fans out there, what do y'all think about Kevin Love going to the Cleveland Cavaliers?
Oh man, that is big news. I think that I think it kind of hurts Andrew Wiggins though, because coming out now he has to go to a kind of a low market team that doesn't really win,
right?
And not having that mentorship of LeBron James,
right?
But for LeBron James, I mean, he's trying to put it together this time. Yeah. Last time he couldn't get any help over there. Nobody wanted to go to Cleveland. But since he became, a champ and everything, and developed the person he is, now everybody wants to go over there. I think Ray Allen, Sean Marion's supposed to be going over
Sean
there.
Marion signing, correct. And Mike Miller signed. And I know Ray Allen, they're talking. I think he's going to end up going.
Yeah, he's going to end up going. And so they're going to have experience, a bench, and, and man, wow. Now they got Kevin Love, a walking double-double.
Right.
Somebody that he can, and he likes to pick and pop.
And he can shoot. He's a stretch forward.
Right. He's a stretch forward. I think he shoots better than Chris Bosh.
I agree.
He gets more rebounds.
I agree.
And so, man, they, they better be on the lookout.
Yeah, it's gonna be pretty. I mean, I think now Cleveland has put themselves in a position to be the strongest team. Coming out of the East by far. I mean, I can just see Miami dropping all the way to the doldrums. I mean, it's just.
You think so? You don't think Miami be fourth? Really, this is the East.
I really just can't see.
I mean, Miami. Atlanta made the playoffs last year.
Washington.
Actually, they did okay.
Nice. Washington is nice.
They did okay.
Washington is nice. They have Wall, Ariza.
Right.
I like Washington as my young team, my young up-and-coming team. I like Washington.
And then Paul George goes down.
You took the words right out of my mouth, sir. You said, because that's what pretty much, between Paul George going down, that takes the Pacers out of the equation, especially with Lance Stevenson going to the Hornets.
Right.
And now you got, Chicago is going to put up a fight. Chicago is going to be the nemesis, but, man, you got, like you said, Kevin Love. You have potentially, all those role players, Mike Miller, Sean Marion, Ray Allen, and Cleveland is the front runner. It's Miami Midwest.
Right.
It is Miami Midwest
because look at the
this
big
year.
three. I think that they have. I think what kind of exposed Miami a little bit, was they didn't have a point guard.
Right.
And Tony
Not a real
Parker
point
and
guard.
those, right, not a real point guard, but now they got Kyrie Irving.
Right.
Really,
Right. We didn't even mention Kyrie Irving yet.
Right. We didn't
two-time
mention
All-Star.
him. Exactly. So,
So look, coming up in about 90 seconds, we have Noel Jackson with Music Satisfaction here on 96.9 FM WHYR-LP, Baton Rouge Community Radio. Real quick, we know a very historic hiring in the coaching world in the NBA. The San Antonio Spurs hired 6-time WNBA All-Star Becky Hammon to be an assistant coach under Greg Popovich. I think it's going to be interesting, but I'll tell you what, because it's Greg Popovich and not, say, Mike Brown making this hire, I think the credibility that comes behind Pop is going to give this young lady all the ammunition she needs, and obviously she knows her X's and O's. I don't think Pop would have bothered with her.
Yeah, I think that it's kind of an internship for her to become the first female head coach in the NBA. I think that, she's got with him, she's going to have the pedigree, and I think that that's what they're ultimately aiming for.
I agree. I totally agree. And from what I've read about this, I mean, I know she was a standout in the NBA. I remember her at Colorado State. She was a little baller at 5'6", but from what I understand, the players respect her. She knows the game. She and Tony Parker and Tim Duncan have a pretty good relationship as it is. So I think the stage is set. And like I said, Greg Popovich just, how should I put this? I don't question anything he does anymore. Well, everything he has the Midas touch. Everything that man touches turns to gold. So, we're coming up to the end of our show here. I'll let everybody get their final shout-outs.
Well, in closing, I'd like to give a strong shout-out to the late Dr. Jewel Prestige, the first African-American woman to obtain a Ph.D. in political science from Southern University, the class of 1951. Also, I'd like to give a strong shout-out, I know he's listening, to Dr. Okoye Amos, earned his Ph.D. at Southern Miss, McKinley Senior High School, graduate class of 1986.
All right, so we're ready to wrap it all up here. We'll see you all next week, 11 a.m. Have a good afternoon.
Peace.
Peace.
Hail to the King and Lords of Lords. May He protect us from the evil. Hail to the King, Lords of Lords. May He protect us from evil.